turned himself twice, and his face was bathed in perspiration by the time he finished his first sweep. "Reading's all safe again, comrades." "Good," Melican said. "Come down and rest a moment before you check it again." Sviardov almost thanked his chief for that, but this would not have done at all. As a young, dedicated officer and a member of the Komsomol, no exertion was too great. He came down carefully, and Melican handed him another cigarette. The chief engineer was a gray-haired perfectionist who took decent care of his men. "Why, thank you, comrade," Sviardov said. Petrov got a folding chair. "Sit, comrade lieutenant, rest your legs." The lieutenant sat down at once, stretching his legs to work out the knots. The officers at VVMUPP had told him how lucky he was to draw this assignment. Ramius and Melican were the two best teachers in the fleet, men whose crews appreciated their kindness along with their competence. "They really should insulate those pipes," Ramius said. Melican shook his head. "Then they'd be too hard to inspect." He handed the counter to his captain. "Entirely safe." The captain read off the cumulative dial. "You get more exposure tending a garden." "Indeed," Melican said. "Coal miners get more exposure than we do from the release of radon gas in the mines. Bad badges, that's what it has to be. Why not take out the whole batch and check it?" "I could, comrade," Petrov answered, "but then, due to the extended nature of our crews, we'd have to run for several days without any, contrary to regulations, I'm afraid." "You are correct. In any case, the badges are only a backup to our instruments." Ramius gestured to the red circle detectors all over the compartment. "Do you really want to recheck the piping?" Melican asked. "I think we should," Ramius said. Sviardov swore to himself, looking down at the deck. "There is no extravagance in the pursuit of safety," Petrov quoted doctorally. "Sorry, Lieutenant." The doctor was not a bit sorry. He had been genuinely worried and was now feeling a lot better. An hour later, the second check had been completed. Petrov took Sviardov forward for salt tablets and tea to rehydrate himself. The senior officers left, and Melican ordered the reactor plant to restart. The enlisted men filed back to their duty stations, looking at one another. Their officers had just checked the hot compartments with radiation instruments. The medical corpsman had looked pale a while earlier and refused to say anything. More than one engine attendant fingered his radiation badge and checked his wristwatch to see how long it would be before he went off duty. The 8th day, Friday, 10 December. HMS Invincible. Ryan awoke in the dark. The curtains were drawn in the cabin's two small portholes. He shook his head a few times to clear it and began to assess what was going on around him. The Invincible was moving on the seas, but not as much as before. He got up to look out of a porthole and saw the last red glow of sunset aft under scudding clouds. He checked his watch and did some clumsy mental arithmetic, concluding that it was 6 in the evening, local time. That translated to about 6 hours of sleep. He felt pretty good, considering. A minor headache from the brandy, so much for the theory that good stuff doesn't give you a hangover, and his muscles were stiff. He did a few sit-ups to work out the knots. There was a small bathroom, he corrected himself, adjoining the cabin. Ryan splashed some water on his face and washed his mouth out, not wanting to look in the mirror. He decided he had to. Counterfeit or not, he was wearing his country's uniform, and he had to look presentable. It took a minute to get his hair in place and the uniform arranged properly. The CIA had done a nice job of tailoring, given such short notice. Finished, he went out the door towards the flag bridge. "Feeling better, Jack?" Admiral White pointed him to a tray full of cups. It was only tea, but it was a start. "Thank you, Admiral. Those few hours really helped. I guess I'm in time for dinner?" "Breakfast," White corrected him with a laugh. "What? Pardon me, Admiral?" Ryan shook his head again. He was still a little groggy. "That's a sunrise, Commander. Changing orders. We're heading west again. Kennedy's moving east at high speed, and we're to take station inshore." "Who said, sir?" "St. Glad. I gather Joshua was not at all pleased. You are to remain with us for the moment, and under the circumstances it seemed the reasonable thing to let you sleep. You did appear to need it." Must have been 18 hours, Ryan thought. No wonder he felt stiff. "You do look much better." Admiral White noted from his leather swivel chair. He got up, took Ryan's arm, and guided him out. "Now, for breakfast. I've been waiting for you. Captain Hunter will brief you on our revised orders. Weather's clearing up for a few days, they tell me. Escort assignments are being reshuffled. We're to operate in conjunction with your New Jersey group. Our anti-submarine operations begin in earnest in another 12 hours. It's a good thing you got that extra sleep, lad. You'll bloody need it." Ryan ran his hand over his face. "Can I shave, sir?" "We still permit beards. Let it wait until after breakfast." Flag quarters on HMS Invincible were not quite up to the standard of those on the Kennedy, but close. White had a private dining area. A steward in a white livery served them expertly, setting a third place for Hunter, who appeared within a few minutes. When they started talking, the steward was excused. "We rendezvous with a pair of your Knox-class frigates in 2 hours. We already have them on radar. 2 more 1052s plus an oiler and 2 Perrys will join us in another 36 hours. They were on their way home from the Med. With our own escorts, a total of 9 warships. A noteworthy collection, I think. We'll be working 500 miles offshore with the New Jersey Tarawa force 200 miles to our west." "Tarawa? What do we need a regiment of Marines for?" Ryan asked. Hunter explained briefly. "Not a bad idea, that. The funny thing is, with Kennedy racing for the Azores, that rather leaves us guarding the American coast." Hunter grinned. "This may be the first time the Royal Navy has ever done that. Certainly, since it belonged to us." "What are we up against?" "The first of the Alphas will be on your coast tonight, 4 of them ahead of all the others. The Soviet surface force passed Iceland last night. It's divided into 3 groups. One is built around air carrier Kiev, 2 cruisers and 4 destroyers. The second, probably the Force Flag, is built around Kirov, with 3 additional cruisers and 6 destroyers, and the third is centered on Moskva, 3 more cruisers and 7 destroyers. I gather that the Soviets will want to use the Kiev and the Moskva groups inshore, with Kirov guarding them out to sea. But Kennedy's relocation will make them rethink that. Regardless, the total force carries a considerable number of surface-to-surface missiles, and potentially we are very exposed. To help out with that, your Air Force has an E-3 Sentry detailed to arrive here in an hour to exercise with our Harriers, and when we get farther west, we'll have additional land-based air support. On the whole, our position is hardly an enviable one, but Ivan's is rather less so. So far as the question of finding Red October is concerned, Hunter shrugged. How we conduct our search will depend on how Ivan deploys. At the moment, we're conducting some tracking drills. The lead Alpha is 80 miles northwest of us, steaming at 40-plus knots, and we have a helicopter in pursuit, which is roughly what it amounts to. Fleet Operations Officer concluded. "Will you join us below?" "Admiral." Ryan wanted to see Invincible's Combat Information Center. "Certainly." 30 minutes later, Ryan was in a darkened, quiet room whose walls were a solid bank of electronic instruments and glass plotting panels. The Atlantic Ocean was full of Russian submarines. The White House. The Soviet ambassador entered the Oval Office a minute early at 10:59 a.m. He was a short, overweight man with a broad Slavic face and eyes that would have done a professional gambler proud. They revealed nothing. He was a career diplomat, having served in a number of posts throughout the Western world, and a 30-year member of the Communist Party's Foreign Department. "Good morning, Mr. President," Dr. Pelt. Alexei Arbatov nodded politely to both men. The president, he noted at once, was seated behind his desk. Every other time he'd been here, the president had come around, shake hands, then sat down beside him. "Help yourself to some coffee, Mr. Ambassador," Pelt offered. The special assistant to the president for national security affairs was well known to Arbatov. Jeffrey Pelt was an academic from the Georgetown University's Center for Strategic and International Studies. An enemy, but a well-mannered, cold-turning enemy. Arbatov had a fondness for the niceties of formal behavior. Today, Pelt was standing at his boss's side, unwilling to